The final whistle blew across the sun-drenched football field at Lincoln High in suburban California, but Rowan Thompson's mind was nowhere near the 28-14 victory his team had just clinched. If Camden thinks coming out as gay is going to be the end of our family's reputation, he's got another thing coming. He growled to his best friend Jake as they jogged toward the locker room, helmets tucked under their arms, the afternoon light glinting off the metal bleachers. Rowan, the star senior quarterback with broad shoulders, sharp jawline, and the kind of effortless charisma that drew college scouts to every game, had always been the golden boy in their blended family. His stepbrother Camden, a junior with a slimmer build, messy brown hair, and those thoughtful hazel eyes, had dropped the bombshell at dinner the night before. "I'm gay, and I'm done hiding it." The words still echoed in Rowan's head like a bad tackle. Their parents' reactions had been a mixed bag. Mom reached across the table with a supportive smile, but Dad went stone silent, his fork hovering midair. For Rowan, it felt like a direct hit to everything he had built since their parents married 5 years ago, merging two households into one picture-perfect American dream in this quiet town outside San Francisco. The unexpected consequence was already rippling through the hallways by Monday morning. Whispers followed Camden like shadows, and Rowan could feel the sidelong glances from teammates who used to slap him on the back without a second thought. He knew he had to act before the rumors snowballed and cost him that full-ride scholarship to state. As he showered off the grass and sweat, hot water pounding his back, Rowan's thoughts raced with a plan that felt necessary, even if it twisted something deep in his chest. He couldn't let Camden's truth drag the family name through the mud. Not when Dad's construction business relied on conservative clients and Rowan's own future hung in the balance. Little did he realize, this single choice to undermine his stepbrother would unravel far more than reputations. It would force every hidden crack in their lives into the light. Later that evening, the Thompson household simmered with unspoken tension. Dad cleared his throat at the dinner table, passing the mashed potatoes with a gruff, "Let's keep things normal around here, boys." Mom shot Camden an encouraging nod, but Rowan could see the worry lines around her eyes. Camden sat quietly, pushing food around his plate, his usual easy laugh missing. Rowan watched him across the table, anger bubbling alongside an unfamiliar ache he refused to name. They had been close once, building Lego forts in the backyard and staying up late sharing dreams about the future. Now Camden was different, and that difference threatened everything Rowan held dear. After the dishes were cleared, Rowan slipped out to meet Jake at the neighborhood park, the streetlights buzzing overhead. "We need to make sure the school sees this for what it is," Rowan said, kicking at the dirt path. "Start with some casual talk in the locker room, maybe leak that it's affecting team morale. Then, at the homecoming rally next week, we escalate. Nothing crazy, just enough to make him rethink being so open." Jake shifted uncomfortably on the bench but nodded. "He's your brother, man." "Stepbrother," Rowan corrected, his voice sharper than intended. "And this is bigger than that." That night, alone in his room with the glow of his phone screen lighting his face, Rowan stared at the ceiling long after lights out. The guilt crept in like fog off the bay, memories of Camden defending him in middle school fights flashing uninvited. But he pushed it down hard. Dad's approving nod after a big game, the scouts' emails praising his leadership, those were what mattered. The family came first, even if protecting it meant pushing Camden into the shadows. Rowan typed out a quick text to Jake confirming the first steps, then set his phone aside. The plan was in motion, logical and clean in his mind. Yet as sleep finally claimed him, restless dreams stirred with faces he couldn't quite place, hinting at consequences he was not ready to face. The next morning, Lincoln High buzzed with its usual energy, but for Rowan, every hallway felt like a battlefield he had chosen to enter. Camden walked past with his head high, a small rainbow pin glinting on his backpack, and Rowan felt the first real crack in his resolve. Still, he told himself it was for the best. The next morning, Camden woke with a lightness he hadn't felt in years, the California sun streaming through his bedroom window as he pinned that small rainbow emblem to his backpack strap. "Today feels different," he whispered to his reflection, the words carrying the weight of months spent swallowing who he really was. At Lincoln High, the art club meeting after third period had become his safe haven, where Ethan, the quiet senior with curly hair and a sketchbook always under his arm, listened without judgment. Their conversations flowed easily now, from favorite indie bands to dreams of art school in New York, hands brushing accidentally over shared drawings in a way that made Camden's heart race without a single word crossing the line. He knew Rowan was watching from across the quad, but Camden refused to shrink back. This was his truth, and after years of hiding, it felt like breathing fresh air for the first time. Across campus in the bustling cafeteria, Rowan sat with his teammates, the noise of trays and laughter swirling around him. "Dude, your stepbrother's really owning it," Jake muttered, sliding into the seat beside him with a tray of fries. Rowan's jaw tightened as he spotted Camden and Ethan at a far table, heads close in conversation. The rumors he and Jake had started that morning, casual comments in the locker room about team focus, were already spreading like wildfire. A couple of sophomores had glanced at Camden sideways in the hall, and Rowan told himself it was working, that Camden would see the pressure and pull back. But watching his stepbrother laugh freely, something twisted in Rowan's gut, a mix of jealousy and an ache he buried under layers of anger. "It's for his own good," he muttered back to Jake. "Dad's already stressed about the business. If this gets out too big, scouts might look the other way." Jake nodded but kept his eyes on his food, the hesitation clear. After school, the tension followed them home. Mom tried to bridge the gap with her usual family game night suggestion, but Dad waved it off, burying himself in paperwork at the kitchen table. "We don't need to make a spectacle," he said quietly, his eyes flicking toward Camden for the first time that evening. Rowan caught the look and felt validated, using it as fuel when he met Jake again after dark at the empty football field. They sat on the bleachers under the stadium lights, the plan growing more detailed. "At the rally, we'll have someone from the AV club slip in a slide. Nothing graphic, just enough to show he's not hiding anymore and let the school react. Make it look anonymous." Rowan sketched it out on his phone notes, logic driving every word. Yet later, walking home alone through the quiet streets lined with palm trees, the cool evening breeze carrying the scent of ocean air, doubts flooded back. He remembered Camden covering for him when he snuck out last summer, the way his stepbrother had always been the steady one. Shaking his head, Rowan pushed the memories aside. This was about survival, about protecting the life they had built together as a family. Camden, meanwhile, confided in Ethan during a late-night text exchange, the glow of his screen the only light in his room. "Rowan's been distant, but I think he'll come around. Family's family." Ethan's reply came quickly, "You've got this. And you've got me." The simple words brought a smile that lingered as Camden drifted off, unaware of the gathering storm. The following days blurred into routine, classes, practices, and hallway encounters where Rowan avoided eye contact. The rumors gained traction, a few teammates making offhand jokes that left Camden eating lunch alone more often. Rowan watched from afar, telling himself the isolation would pass quickly once Camden got the message. But each night, the internal conflict deepened, leaving him staring at the ceiling wondering why protecting the family felt so much like losing a piece of himself. The homecoming rally loomed closer, the perfect stage for his carefully laid plan, and Rowan convinced himself the end would justify every uneasy step. By midweek, the subtle campaign had taken root at Lincoln High, turning casual conversations into pointed stares that followed Camden down the polished hallways. He felt the shift during English class when a girl he barely knew whispered just loud enough for him to hear, "Guess some people can't keep it quiet." Camden gripped his pencil tighter, focusing on the essay prompt about identity in literature, but the words blurred. Ethan slipped him a note across the aisle later. "Ignore them. You're braver than they know." Their fingers brushed as Camden took it, a small spark of warmth cutting through the growing chill. After school, in the art room with sunlight pouring through the big windows, they talked for hours about everything and nothing, Camden opening up about the family dinners that now felt like minefields. "Rowan's my brother, even if he doesn't see it that way right now. I just wish he'd talk to me instead of shutting me out. Ethan listened, his presence steady, reminding Camden that love didn't have to be loud to be real. Rowan, meanwhile, threw himself into football practice with ferocious energy, using every drill to drown the nagging voice in his head. Jake pulled him aside in the locker room after a particularly brutal session, the smell of sweat and turf still clinging to their gear. The rumors are sticking, but some of the guys are asking questions. You sure about the rally thing? Rowan wiped his face with a towel, avoiding Jake's eyes. It's the only way to make him see what this is doing to us. Dad barely talks at home anymore, and Mom's walking on eggshells. One big push and he'll realize it's better to keep it private. The words sounded logical. Yet as Rowan drove home that evening, the golden California hills blurring past his truck window, the guilt pressed harder. He remembered the summer they spent building a treehouse together, Camden's laughter echoing through the branches. Those memories clashed with the image of his stepbrother now walking alone in the halls, and Rowan gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles whitened. At home, family dinners had become silent battles. Dad pushed food around his plate, his construction business papers spread out as an excuse to avoid conversation. Mom tried to steer topics toward neutral ground, but the air crackled whenever Camden mentioned an art show or club event. Rowan sat opposite, forcing smiles while his mind replayed the plan's next steps. One night after everyone had gone to bed, he slipped into the hallway and paused outside Camden's door, hand hovering over the knob. Voices from inside caught his ear, Camden on a call with Ethan, the tone light and hopeful. Rowan backed away, the ache in his chest sharpening into something he refused to examine. The next day at school, he doubled down, feeding Jake more details for the anonymous tip they would plant. Make sure it looks like it's coming from a concerned student. The rally's our moment. Jake agreed, but the hesitation in his friend's eyes mirrored Rowan's growing unrest. Camden felt the isolation deepen during lunch periods, choosing a corner table with Ethan where they could talk freely about their futures, hands occasionally linking under the table in quiet support. The romance was simple, built on shared dreams and late-night messages that made the world feel less heavy. Yet Camden couldn't shake the hurt from Rowan's silence, the way his stepbrother crossed the quad without a glance. I thought family meant something more, he confided to Ethan one afternoon on the grassy quad, the sun warming their backs. Ethan squeezed his shoulder. Sometimes people need time to catch up to the truth. Those words stayed with Camden, fueling his resolve even as the rally date approached and the rumors turned sharper. Rowan, watching from the field during practice, felt the weight of every choice, the internal crisis building like a storm over the Pacific. He told himself the sacrifice was worth it, but the mirror at home showed a face he barely recognized, haunted by decisions that no longer felt clean or right. The pieces were set, the rally just days away, and neither brother could predict how one moment would shatter everything they thought they knew about loyalty and love. The homecoming rally filled Lincoln High's gymnasium with roaring energy, banners waving and the band blasting fight songs under the bright overhead lights. Rowan stood on the sidelines with the team, heart pounding not from the cheers, but from the envelope in Jake's backpack containing the USB drive. The plan was simple. During the slideshow of school highlights, an anonymous student submission would flash a few blurred photos of Camden and Ethan together. Nothing explicit, just enough to spark the conversation and pressure Camden to step back. Rowan scanned the bleachers, spotting his stepbrother sitting with Ethan near the front, both laughing at a skit on stage. The sight twisted something in Rowan's chest, but he pushed it down. This was for the family, for the future. As the lights dimmed for the presentation, Jake gave him a thumbs up from the AV booth. The first slides rolled, team photos and Spirit Week highlights drawing applause. Then the screen flickered, and Rowan's carefully chosen image appeared, larger than life. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Camden froze in his seat, color draining from his face as whispers turned to murmurs. Rowan expected triumph, but the knot in his stomach tightened. He had done it, the plot executed perfectly. Yet watching Camden's shoulders slump sent waves of regret crashing over him. The rally continued in awkward silence until the principal stepped up, calling for order. Camden stood slowly, Ethan's hand on his arm for support, and the sight of his stepbrother's quiet dignity hit Rowan harder than any tackle. Backstage after the event, Jake cornered him. It worked, but man, the look on his face. Rowan cut him off, voice rough. It's done. He'll get the message. But that night at home, the house felt colder than ever. Dad avoided everyone. Mom pulled Camden into a long hug in the kitchen, and Rowan retreated to his room, replaying the rally in his mind. The guilt refused to stay buried, mixing with flashes of memories he had long ignored, moments when a teammate's laugh or a lingering glance had stirred something he labeled as nothing. The following days brought the full weight of the consequences. Camden walked the halls with his head high, Ethan by his side, but the support from unexpected corners surprised everyone. A group of students forming a small pride circle in the quad. Rowan watched from afar, the isolation he had intended for his stepbrother now turning inward on himself. Jake distanced himself slightly, muttering about the plan feeling wrong, and Dad's silence at dinner grew heavier. One evening, Rowan found himself alone with Camden in the driveway, both washing Mom's car under the setting sun. Words hung between them, heavy and unspoken. "Why?" Camden finally asked, voice steady but eyes pained. Rowan scrubbed harder at a spot on the hood, the sponge dripping suds. "You don't understand what this does to us." The conversation ended there, but the crack in Rowan's armor widened. That night, alone with his thoughts, he scrolled through old photos of them as kids, the internal crisis reaching a breaking point. The plot had succeeded in one way, but it was unraveling him in ways he never anticipated. The school buzzed with debate, some siding with tradition, others quietly supporting Camden. Rowan threw himself into extra practices, but the joy was gone. He caught glimpses of Camden and Ethan sharing quiet moments on the benches after school, their connection a stark contrast to his own emptiness. The family dynamic shifted further when Mom confronted him privately. "Whatever you're doing, it stops now. This isn't protection, Rowan. It's pain." Her words echoed as he lay awake, the weight of his choices pressing down. The rally had been the peak of his plan, but instead of resolution, it opened doors to questions he had spent years locking away. Camden, meanwhile, found strength in Ethan's unwavering presence, their bond deepening through whispered talks under the stars in the backyard, hands linked as they dreamed of a future where truth didn't cost so much. The storm Rowan had unleashed was far from over, and the school watched, unaware of the greater shock still to come. The week after the rally brought an uneasy calm to Lincoln High, but beneath the surface, tensions simmered like the California heat. Camden moved through his days with a new resolve, Ethan's steady support turning their lunches into pockets of peace amid the stares. They walked the quad hand in hand one afternoon, the simple act drawing both admiration and whispers. Yet Camden felt freer than ever. "I won't let it break me," he told Ethan as they sat on the grass, sketching future plans in his notebook. Their connection had grown into something profound, built on late-night talks about fears and hopes, the kind of quiet love that anchored him when home felt like a battlefield. Rowan, watching from the football field during warm-ups, felt each sighting like a fresh bruise. His plan had backfired in ways he never imagined, turning the school against division rather than Camden. Jake barely spoke to him now, and Dad's disappointment hung heavy in every silent dinner. Then came the assembly that changed everything. The principal called a special gathering in the gym to address recent incidents. The air thick with anticipation as students filed in. Rowan sat with the team, nerves frayed, when the AV screen lit up again. This time, it was not the photos he had planted. Instead, leaked chat logs from his own phone appeared, messages to Jake outlining the entire plot in cold detail, followed by a single blurred image from Rowan's private folder. One he thought was deleted, showing him at a summer camp last year with a boy whose arm was around his shoulder in a way that left no room for misinterpretation. The gym fell into stunned silence, then erupted in gasps. Rowan's world tilted. "That's not," he started, but the words died as heads turned toward him. The evidence had somehow reversed, exposing not just the scheme but the secret Rowan had buried deepest. The truth he had fought by attacking Camden. The shock rippled through the entire school like a wave, students whispering, teachers frozen. Camden stood slowly from his seat, eyes wide but steady, meeting Rowan's panicked gaze across the gym. In that moment, the lat engwak hit with full force. Rowan, the macho quarterback who had plotted to ruin his gay stepbrother, was outed by his own actions. The internal struggle he had denied for years laid bare for everyone to see. He bolted from the bleachers, pushing through the crowd as voices rose in a mix of disbelief and realization. Jake tried to follow, but Rowan ran until he reached the empty track behind the school, chest heaving under the bright afternoon sun. The consequences crashed over him, every rumor, every sidelong glance now aimed at himself. Camden found him there later, sitting on the grass with his head in his hands. "I knew something was off," Camden said softly, no anger in his voice. "You didn't have to do this alone." The words broke something in Rowan, years of hiding spilling out in shaky admissions under the open sky. The school reeled for days, the twist dominating every conversation from lockers to lunch tables. Support poured in from unexpected places, the same students who had whispered now organizing talks on acceptance. Rowan faced suspension for the plot, but the principal offered counseling instead, recognizing the deeper pain. At home, Dad sat them both down, voice cracking for the first time. "I thought I was protecting the family. Turns out I was the one who needed to listen." Mom held them all in a long embrace, the blended family cracking open to healing. Rowan and Camden talked late into the night, the barriers crumbling as Rowan confessed the fear that had driven him. The way seeing Camden's courage had mirrored his own suppressed truth. Ethan joined family dinners gradually, his calm presence bridging gaps, while Rowan began tentative steps toward his own journey, joining Camden at the Pride Circle one afternoon. The emotional growth was raw and real, each brother facing the system of their choices and finding strength in honesty. The town, the school, everyone had been stunned, but in the aftermath, something stronger emerged. The months following the assembly transformed Lincoln High in ways no one could have predicted. Rowan walked the halls with a new humility, the varsity jacket feeling lighter now that the weight of secrets was gone. He and Camden ate lunch together again, sometimes with Ethan and a growing circle of friends who had found their own voices in the ripple effect. Football practice continued, but Rowan played for the love of the game rather than perfection, his teammates slowly rallying around him with quiet respect. The family dinners evolved too, Dad asking genuine questions about their days, Mom sharing stories of her own youth that revealed layers they never knew. Rowan found solace in late-night talks with Camden, the stepbrothers rebuilding what the plot had nearly destroyed, their bond deeper for having survived the fire. "I thought I was saving us," Rowan admitted one evening on the porch, stars twinkling over the California hills. "Turns out you were the one saving me by being brave first." Camden smiled, the old easy laugh returning. "We save each other now." Ethan and Rowan formed an unlikely friendship, the three of them spending weekends at the park or beach, conversations flowing from school drama to future dreams. Rowan's journey of self-acceptance unfolded gradually, small steps like joining the art club as a guest or attending a community support group, each one peeling away years of denial. The school embraced change, hosting its first official Pride event where Camden spoke openly, Rowan standing proudly beside him. The emotional growth radiated outward, touching friends and teachers alike, proving that truth, once unleashed, could heal even the deepest wounds. Family trips to the coast became regular, laughter filling the car as old tensions faded into understanding. Rowan watched Camden and Ethan share quiet moments, their love a model for what he hoped to find someday, the romance pure and grounded in mutual respect. As graduation approached for the seniors, Rowan stood on the football field one last time, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink. Camden joined him, the two brothers side by side overlooking the empty bleachers where the rally had changed everything. "We made it," Camden said simply. Rowan nodded, the internal crisis resolved into peace. The plot that began with fear ended in awakening, the school no longer stunned but inspired. Their story spread quietly through the community, a testament to the power of honesty over hiding. As the brothers walked home together, the future stretched open and bright, filled with possibilities neither had imagined possible. True or false? Hidden truths always destroy families, or can they be the very thing that finally makes them whole?